watching familiar TV shows can be very healthy. It has been shown that, when you watch something that's predictable, our brain loves that. And it actually causes a small release of dopamines. There's an oxytocin release as well. And there's reduced cortisol because the parasympathetic kicks in at that point. And I think everyone's got comfort shows, right?
Yeah. I'm a Friends guy. I watch Friends. It's like hanging out with my friends. Only they never get old.
So I'd be curious to know from our audience, do you choose TV or music when you want to just become comfortable and just zone out? Not fall asleep, just zone out. What TV shows do you like to watch? What music do you like to listen to when you want to kind of get in that comfort zone? I'd be curious to hear what some of our listeners...
Yeah, me too. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Real Brain Talk with Dr. Ken and Dr. Guy.
Hello.
Owners of Brain Core Neurofeedback, and we talk about interesting brain things.
Yeah.
But right now, we want to talk about just common stuff. What are you watching on TV these days, Guy? What's your show?
Let's see. Right now, I'm watching Severance, but I can only watch it when I'm awake and like really paying attention because it's just so intricate, and it's the first time I'm watching it. But when I want to relax and not think about anything, the show my go-to show is Seinfeld. I usually throw Seinfeld on, and there's a lot of reasons for that, I think, because, I'm so familiar with the show. I've seen it so many times before. I could tell you the next line that's coming up, but yet I still want to watch it. And it kind of puts me in this daze that's very, very comfortable and relaxed. We often talk about that borderline between sleep and wakefulness. We talk about this in terms of neurofeedback, and we say that you're kind of in a theta state of mind. I think that's where these TV shows put me. They put me in that theta state of mind. And oddly enough, a lot of times when I'm sitting there watching the show and I'm in that kind of twilighty, half paying attention, half not paying attention, that's usually a time when I get some creative ideas, which we know theta is associated with creativity as well. So why does it happen? I don't know, but we do tend to gravitate towards comfortable shows when we're kind of not in the mood to really pay attention and we just want to relax. We just want to sit down and relax. It's almost like picking up a good book. You just relax. You get into that zone. I
wonder what if it says more about us. Like, I loved Seinfeld. Seinfeld was great. I watched it, but I'm not a rerun watcher of that. That show for me was new, cutting edge. I was a big Seinfeld fan before that show. People make fun of me. I had seen him on tour before that show came out, and people laughed like, "You knew Seinfeld before that show?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He used to tour. There was a place called Governor's up here in Levittown in New York, and I'd go see him. But loved his humor. But that show to me is, and it's similar to like Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like things go wrong and there's miscommunication and there's something that, there's always something odd. It brings you back to like Gilligan's Island. You remember how frustrating as a kid Gilligan's Island was?
Frustrated and you get agitated.
Can somebody just do something right? Yeah. I don't love that. Like, that to me does not put me in my comfort zone. That puts me on edge. I'm a Friends guy. I can watch Friends anytime it's on.
Friends just puts me to sleep. Like, it doesn't even get me in that comfort zone. I just go right to sleep with Friends.
Friends is like hanging out with my friends. It's just, it's like watching it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was that, but both of us, we go towards comedies, right? So, I mean,
yes and no, Ken. I mean, sometimes, like, if I'm flipping through the TV, let's say, sometime in the evening or whatever, and I come across shows like Jaws or
but I mean for comfort. I'm talking about for comfort.
I will watch for comfort too. Like,
oh, really? Jaws?
And I think it's because of the familiarity of
you live on an island.
Like, yeah, that's true. But we do have a bridge, so I don't have to swim. But the thing about it is that it's the familiarity of it. It's the fact that I've seen it so many times that I can just go into that theta zone and just zone out. And still be able to know what's going on. Like, if I did that in Severance, I'd have to rewind it and go back and watch it again because, I don't have any familiarity with it. Maybe in 10 years, I might,
Right.
be able to watch it again and get that same core, like dopamine release, which by the way, it has been shown that, when you watch something that's predictable and you get this sense of predictability, our brain loves that, and it actually causes a small release of dopamine. So you are
Right.
getting a dopamine release when you're watching a show that's predictable. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a comedy. It could be anything that's predictable. They also show that there's an oxytocin release as
Mhm.
well, and there's reduced cortisol because the parasympathetic kicks in at that point.
Mhm.
So in a way, watching familiar TV shows can be very healthy.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if you've ever met people. I've met people that are like, "Oh, I've seen that. I'm not watching that again." I love watching
Yeah,
things over and over again.
yeah, me
And
too.
I like, even when it's an emotional show, I like to ride that emotion still. It's like I know what's coming, but I can still get into the process and ride that emotion and still enjoy where
Yeah,
it takes me.
yeah. So what about movies? What movies do you watch if you want to, like, let's say it's a Saturday afternoon, it's raining out and you're tired and you're like, I just want to veg.
There's so many movies that I like to watch, but you know what keeps coming up, which I keep seeing, and it's one of those ones where you put the remote down. If you're clicking through, I don't know if you've seen The Martian, Matt Damon,
Oh yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
he's
Great
stuck.
movie.
I don't know what it is about that movie lately, but whenever I see it, it's like, up, click, remote's down. I'm watching it.
But are you like engaged in it, or is it because you've seen it so many times that you kind of like, in that theta state of mind, what what are you laughing at?
Crystal, she wrote, he's going to get home. Spoiler alert.
What?
She wrote, he's going to get home. Spoiler alert. Do you want me to spoil it, the movie for everybody?
Wh- Oh, you
Yeah.
mean the Martian?
Yes. Okay. Well, that's actually a good point. So, spoiler alert. When I'm watching The Martian, I know, and that maybe that's a great point. Actually, the reason that I put the remote down is because if I'm watching it for a minute, I need to wait until he gets home. Like I need to watch him get home every time. If I turn it off before he gets home, I'm not satisfied. So it's like a little addictive in that way. That's funny.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
funny. For me, it's Jaws. You put Jaws on. I know it's like a show that you should be like on the edge of your seat, but I've seen it so many times that it just puts me into a zone.
Are you like me?
But
Did you see that in the theater when it first came
yeah,
out?
yeah. In 1974, I was 14 years old when I saw it,
It was
and
what year?
74
I think it was. I thought it was 76
maybe.
for some reason. I don't know, have it in
I
my
don't know.
head,
It
but
was in
you're
there. I
right.
was 14 or 15 years
I
old.
Yeah, and I was younger, and I had nightmares.
Did you
And
really?
yes, and I for some reason that night, I have two older sisters, and they shared a bedroom, and they had bunk beds, and I almost never slept in there. But for some reason, the night I saw that movie, I don't know why, but I had to sleep in the top bunk of that bunk bed, and all night I just kept thinking the shark was gonna get
Land
me.
shark. Remember
Yeah.
that? Land shark. Yeah. So,
No, that's not a comfortable movie for me.
but yet yeah, like it'll just put me in the zone,
Yeah,
and
but I
I'm
but I
so
love that
comfortable.
movie. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
it's
great
a
movie.
great, great movie. Now, the movie that scared the bejesus out of me was The Exorcist. When I
Oh,
was
I never
young,
watched it. I never
oh,
watched it. Yeah, that
man,
was
I
too
had
much.
nightmares for a long time. And of course, my sisters had to play jokes on me, and they would put different little like devil looking
Oh,
figurines in my room, and I'd wake up and see them and be like, ah.
oh. Yeah, I really don't do horror movies. They're that is just triggers me in a whole way that I don't need to be.
Yeah, I find them interesting. I like mind bender movies mostly, though. I like movies that just bend your mind. Like I thought The Sixth Sense was brilliant.
Oh God, yeah.
Spoiler alert, he's dead.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
My
But
wife started doing this now. We have an iPad in our kitchen, and the iPad, we've always played music on the iPad, and I've always enjoyed that. I get up in the morning, I hear the
yeah.
music playing, it's nice. You know, she's usually playing one of my Spotify playlists, so I'm familiar with the music, whatever. all of a sudden she discovered that on the iPad you could also watch TV. And now I don't wake up to music anymore. I wake up to Ted Lasso every morning in the kitchen. And she's seen them all like at least 4 or 5 times. And I'm like, why do you keep watching these? And she's like, well, the same reason why I keep watching Below Deck and all the other shows that I've seen a million times. She goes, it's comfortable. I'm doing other things. I don't have to pay attention. And for her, that's a relaxing thing. I still wish I was
I've
listening
always
to Dave Matthews, but
So, but I think people can be kind of classified into two people. There's the music people and the TV people. Like if I had to choose between a stereo, well, you don't have stereos anymore. Whatever,
don't you miss that? I miss the stereos.
The stereo with the album and the needle.
Album. It was something about the tactile part of that. Like you had an album cover you could look at. You had the vinyl that you had to put on. It was so much. I don't know. The sound was different for me.
I always had stress when I was really young and you had to put the needle on. You physically had to do that.
So you'd be there shaking.
That was just anxiety inducing.
No, I loved.
But I'm like, if I had to choose, it's a TV. To me, it's a TV. If I'm putting on background something, it's a TV. It's not. Yeah. It's not music.
Yeah. Most of the time, that's true for me. But I will tell you, when I put the music on, I often think to myself, why do I even watch TV? Because I enjoy just sitting and listening to music so much. Yeah. But it's like the process of putting the music on. It's easier for me to just plop on the couch and put the TV on, and I always forget how much I enjoy just listening to music, but TV wins out most of the time.
Yeah. And now, I mean, funny to talk about podcast on a podcast, but when I'm in the car, I listen to podcasts.
Do you really?
Yes. Oh my God. And where I'm on a plane. So what I do, like I have to travel this week. I have to come down there to South Carolina to see you and train another whole group of BrainCorp providers with you, and excited to do that. But when my prep for going on the plane is to download some shows to watch to pass the time. And now I'm also downloading podcasts, and it's great on the plane because I put my noise canceling headphones on, I get on the plane. Yep. I don't have to look at my iPad, and I just sit there and I listen to Smartless and Conan, funny interview shows where they just are silly and they're laugh. They're just, to me, that's another form of comfort show. I love it.
My wife and my son get into podcasts, and it's funny because I'm doing one with you now, but I just don't listen to them. I listened to Joe Rogan, a couple of times. Right. My son really into listening to him, and I listened to it with him, and I was like, it was all right. It was funny, but my wife listens to Giggly Squad. I don't know if you ever heard of them. But
no, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, I don't know. He actually went down to St. Augustine and watched them in one of their live performances. Really? And but it doesn't do much. Now, listening to a book, if it's a good book, I like listening to books on tape. I'll put Audible on and I'll get into a book. But the podcast, maybe I will at some point, but right now I'm just not.
I mean, it's exploding. I mean, like this Smartless podcast. So it's Sean Hayes, Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Will Arnett. Sorry, he's great. I love Will Arnett, but
he's funny.
My brain went off. But they've all been very successful actors, and and apparently this podcast that they've been doing since I guess COVID started, has the biggest financial gain they've ever made in their famous careers. Wow. They just sold it, I think, to SiriusXM for like $100 million just for the next 3 years. And it's just because people are just comfortable and listening to like a bunch of friends.
Yeah. Just chatting away
and just chit chat. And it's amazing how that really does. It gets right into your brain and just makes everything kind of go, they're just people laughing and having fun, and who doesn't want that?
Who I feel like would work good in that podcast? Seth MacFarlane. I feel like he would fit in with those guys.
Well, he would. But he could do it in like 18 different voices, and
he's so funny. He kills me. So I'd be curious to know from our audience a couple of different things. Number one, I'd love to know: do you choose TV or music when you want to just become comfortable and just zone out, not fall asleep, just zone out. If you choose TV, what TV shows do you like to watch? What movies do you like to watch to get you into that? We call it that theta zone, when you're in that zone of theta. And what music do you like to listen to when you want to kind of get in that comfort zone? I'd be curious to hear what some of our listeners.
Yeah, me too. I was going to throw out a couple other things. Like my wife, on the TV side, she loves all like reality stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
she loves to see the housewives and I mean, that's her thing.
Yeah.
She loves it. And then there's Russell, right? Our partner Russell. I mean, whenever you go hang out with Russell, he's always got the news on in the background.
Yeah.
Um, you
Which
know,
does just the opposite. It
I,
gets you
um,
riled up. It gets you,
yeah, but it's
it,
background noise for him. I don't know if how much he's listening and how much is,
I, I'd venture to guess that a lot of it's seeping in, though, and probably causing
yeah,
an unconscious sympathetic reaction, which is
I
just the
wouldn't be
opposite of what
surprised.
we're talking about.
Yeah,
You
but I
know,
know a lot of people that do. They leave that news on, and I think it could be quite agitating. No matter which news you're listening to, doesn't
yeah,
really
and
matter.
maybe he's so familiar with it that
Mhm.
it minimizes his cognitive response and his emotional arousal, which we know when you do that, you activate the hypothalamic pituitary axis and you get less lower cortisol. So it actually calms your HPA down and it releases less
Mhm.
cortisol into your body. So maybe that's what's going on with him watching the
Yeah,
news all the time.
and it's funny listening to a couple of neurofeedback guys like us talk about what we watch because it's the key component typically of a neurofeedback session is watching something that you're interested in.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
what do you do? Do you want your clients and patients? Do you want them watching something that they're comfortable with, or do you want them watching something edgy? I like the comfort. I think I'd like them to watch something that they're really interested and really want to pay attention to, but it's comforting to them rather than
So I have a little bit of a disagreement on that, and I think that when you put them in that comfortable TV show, right? Like if you put Seinfeld on for me, and it
Mhm.
gets me in that comfortable TV show, I feel like I'm not going to pay attention, the way I would
Mhm.
if it was the first time I was seeing a show.
Yeah.
So for me, I think my interest level would be much higher if you put a TV show on for me to do neurofeedback to that I have interest in that I have not seen before.
It
Because if
makes you
I've seen
focus
it
better.
before,
It
yeah, I,
really
I
makes you
won't be as
focus more.
focused. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've worked with a lot of children over the years, and a lot of times they like to go with something comforting.
Oh yeah.
That's something that they've seen over and over again. That's what they key in, and they go, "All right, I can watch this." And they don't like
Right.
surprises, and they don't like to see something coming out of left field and disturbing them. So
Right.
I guess it really depends on the individual on that one.
Exactly. I was just going to say that it's completely individualized. In terms of what might work for someone with neurofeedback. Is it more of a familiar show? Is it more of a
Right.
show that you just never seen before, but you have interest in it? I think that's a very individualized thing. But the key to all neurofeedback, as you know, is you have to watch something that you have to
Right.
pay attention to. We just started, and this, Ken. We just implemented multiple object tracking as a
Mhm.
form of feedback,
It's
where
funny, right before
people.
we did this, I spent
Did you
about
do a session?
15 minutes doing
Yeah.
doing that. It was great.
And in multiple object tracking, you're basically asked to track different objects within a field of vision, and then identify those objects when they all stop moving, or whatever. That's kind of
Mhm,
a simplified version of it. But now what we can do is people can be playing that game, which we know has value.
mhm,
It has tremendous value for increasing cognitive awareness, increasing cognitive functionality. And now you do that while you're doing neurofeedback. It's like you're getting two things, that are basically working on cognitive abilities. So memory, attention, focus, all of those things are going to respond. And it's an interesting game. Like you could sit there and play it for 15, 20 minutes and still be interested in
mhm.
it. So,
Yeah, yeah. I just literally just did it right before we started to record, and it's really enjoyable, except if you miss that first moment, if you have to really stay focused in that
I
first
know.
moment. If you miss that, you're like,
You're
okay,
done. Then what
yeah,
happens is you just stop thinking. You're just like, all right, let's just let this round go through.
yeah,
And
we'll wait for the next one.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. Well, this has been very interesting for me.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
like
hope
this
everybody
topic.
got something out of this. And, again, watch TV. Let us know what you watch, when
Yeah,
you watch, why you watch it, or what you listen to.
yeah.
I think it's very interesting.
Specifically to get you into that comfort. And I think everyone knows what we're talking about when we say, you get into that comfort place that's not asleep, not awake, but you're just there. And TV shows can do that.
Right. Well, just to give you a little, so my older daughter, who's 29, she was a Friends person. So when she was young, we used to have the DVDs, and it was all like to fall asleep, she would watch Friends. I
Yeah.
tried to replicate that with my younger daughter, who's 13 now. No, she could have not less interest in that or any scripted type show. She's on YouTube watching these different things. There's a podcast, a bunch, of stuff that she's watching. I don't even think she knows that podcasts aren't always on video. I think she just thinks they're always video. But she watches these guys be silly, and that's her comfort place.
Well, she grew up in a different era. That's for
Totally
sure.
different era.
So,
Yeah. All right.
wild.
Well, thanks
All right.
everybody. We'll see you next
Thanks
time.
for watching and listening.